Hello there, Harry. How you doing? Good to see you here. Good to see a friendly face in an otherwise hostile environment. All right, all right, all right. I'm good. I'm good. I'm all right. Okay. I'm glad you can hear me okay. Just doing February's live stream here. Open to the public. This is the place where I give the trolls and the naysayers the opportunity to come on here and say whatever they want to me, which of course they never do. But I like to give them the opportunity. And I also have a topic to talk about that's relevant to a lot of things, and that is contract. And the simple rule that contract is by consent. A lot of people don't really follow through that. They don't really follow that through. They don't play the tape the whole way through. You know, they only choose the parts that suit them, cherry pick, and leave the rest out. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. What I also want to mention is, and this doesn't really impact too many people here, but Meta, if you're familiar with that term, Meta, i.e., the folks who run Facebook and Instagram, they have taken down my private Facebook and Instagram profiles. And on Facebook, that would be my private profile, :Jason-Matthew:, which, I mean, for most of you here, doesn't affect you because you're not in my inner circle, so to speak. And my Facebook was just basically for my friends and family, and I've had it since probably 2006, 7, 8, whenever that was, a long time. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get a notification, an email saying that my Facebook account has been removed. And the reason why is for continuous community guideline violations. And so I tried to figure out, well, what exactly was it that I did that prompted that? Because, I mean, you folks know that on this YouTube channel, I'm usually talking about, have you read the community guidelines? Do you know what, when you comment here, when you choose to comment, are you aware of the rules? And my rules for this channel are very simple. There's like 3 of them. And it takes you like maybe 6 seconds to read all 3 of them. However, Facebook has a ton of them, and I have read them. And quite frankly, from my own estimation and my own experience with dealing with Facebook and things like that, it's a very gray area as far as what you can post or what you can't post. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I upset about Facebook doing this or Meta doing this. I'm not at all. It doesn't really matter to me. But I just wanted to find out why. Like, what was it that actually prompted this? And of course, they don't give you an answer. They just give you a copy of the community guidelines, but they never tell you which one it is or what post you posted. What was it that you posted that caused your account to be deleted? They don't say. So the only thing I can guess, based upon folks in my inner circle that post similar things to what I post or comment similar things to what I comment, I just have to guess it has to do with those jaywalkers. All right. That place that people think is real. Is real. Spell that out. Is real. That place. Talking about that place. I'd have to think that that's what it was that did it. I don't know for sure, though. That's why I try to be very careful over here Because although I feel the same way about this channel, I've put, man, thousands of hours of sweat equity into this channel, in the videos and things like that. It would definitely affect me if this channel was taken down. So I try to be very careful about it, about talking about those types of things, because I know, folks, at the end of the day, it's not my platform. I'm a guest here, okay? Harry says, to be fair, you have met many people who work in the technology social media industry. Have you met? No, I have not. As someone who works as a contractor at one, those monitoring the chat probably do not understand the terms and conditions themselves. I agree. From my experience in other areas, I totally agree with you, Harry. I mean, folks who would otherwise, I would think, be, smart as a whip here on YouTube, it's just they don't read terms and conditions. No one ever thinks to do that. No one ever thinks to know, uh, hey, maybe I should find out what rules apply to this house that I'm walking into. No one ever thinks to do that. Like if you come to my house, okay, let me put it in the first person. If I come to your house, I know that I can follow basic etiquette. I know it's polite to take your shoes off. It's polite to take your hat off. You're not going to be spitting on the floor. You're not going to, take a shit in a corner. Probably not going to use cuss words and things like that. I mean, you're going to be polite, say please and thank you. It's just basic etiquette. But no one thinks like that on the internet. No one treats the internet like that at all. The people actually quite the opposite. They treat the internet like it's some trap house or something. Like they can go in and say whatever they want to whomever they want and do whatever they want, you know? And so I think I know what you're talking about. But it did say in the email, the message that I got about my accounts being removed, suspended, whatever, it did say that their automated algorithms did this. So it's like an auto mod that did this. So I'm guessing that, yeah, it wasn't even a living, breathing individual who did it. And so I clicked the appeal button because trying to be appealing, I guess, to see if I can get a human being to look at um, what's going on here and see what they say. Funny thing about that, though, is on YouTube, my YouTube videos used to get flagged all the time. All the time they would get flagged, and I would request a human review. And every time a human looked at the video, they said, okay, there's no problem, and they let it go through. That happened at least a dozen times or more, like more times than I can count. And then after a while, I guess they checked the box and said, Colin, Jason, Ivan, Matthew, Colin, Glass. For some reason, the auto mods pick up on this, and they, let's let him go through, give him a pass. But it did happen for a while. YouTube was flagging my videos left and right. Auto mod, social media monitor. What's the difference? The difference, I think, is the actual human eyes and discernment versus automated eyes and AI discernment. And there's a huge difference there to me, from what I've noticed. As I've shared with you, Harry, AI makes me nauseous. It causes me to be nauseous. I just don't like it at all in any way, shape, or form. And a good a note on that: seeing that the Russell J. Gould cult is consciously and purposefully using AI, man, that's just one more red flag for me as far as that group of individuals go. No, thank you. Don't want nothing to do with AI. Both drones on autopilot by my perception. Perhaps. With the non-breathing drone being more accurate in their assessments. That's why I feel like, correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, that's why AI can't learn it, is the very thing we're talking about here, is for that reason. It doesn't have that living, breathing level of discernment, of observation, if you will. All right, now I'm going to go into talking about contract. Unless someone has a grammar question or something like that, I'll gladly talk about it. Oh, one more thing I wanted to touch on before I go into the contract part. As you may or may not know, I dabbled with what they call vertical live streams that you use your mobile phone for. I'm not going to be doing those anymore because I noticed something. I noticed that when I do a vertical live stream, I get a hell of a lot more viewers. Like a lot. Like I'll get hundreds of viewers, but I'll get dozens, of bots and spam and folks that just say the goofiest things, right? Trolls, ignorant people saying crude and just really disgusting things, right? And so I looked it up. I'm like, what is the difference? Why do I have a different type of viewership with vertical streams than I do with this stream, horizontal stream? But it's like this stream right here, I don't get very many viewers on this, but I don't have any spam either. So the reason is, Google tells me, is that when you use the vertical stream, you're appealing to a younger crowd of teenagers or early 20s folks who are just scrolling through their mobile devices and they come upon your stream. And so you have a younger generation of viewer. And so that explains it right there. And then they said that like the horizontal streams, like the one we're on now, where I'm on my laptop, it's a better caliber, like a more intelligent, mature, serious, whatever. Someone who has a stronger attention span, if you will, than the short attention span theater of the vertical. So you're not going to be seeing any more vertical streams from me, I don't think, because it's just I don't see much value for me in doing that because it just get involved in blocking trolls the whole time. Thank you very much, Harry. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Thank you. I'll give you 3 David-Wynn Millers for that one. By the way, folks, if you are a member of this channel, you have access to 4 different unique emotes if you're into that sort of thing. One of them is my face. Another one is that $1 personalized stamp that I usually use in the upper port side corner of my videos. Another one is David-Wynn Miller, and another one is a picture of my fate writ volition claim stamp that I use on documents. All right. So thank you for that gift, Harry. And now I'm going to go into talking about contract. All right. So the other day, when I had Facebook, A friend of mine posted on Facebook something about mortgages and something about how basically saying it's us against them and it's the bank's fault and the government's fault about mortgages and that they're taking advantage of us and they're criminals and they're stealing and so on and so forth, right? I left a comment where I said, contract is by consent. Did anyone force an individual to sign a mortgage? And by sign, yes, we're talking in adverb, adjective, pronoun, fiction, babble here. Did anyone twist someone's arm to sign a mortgage? Because contract is by consent. And that caused sort of because that is an uncomfortable thing for people to think about. Because then it forces them, in a way, to take accountability or to assign accountability. I know it's a lot easier to blame the government or banks or whatever, your lender. It's easier to blame them that they took advantage of me. They screwed me over on purpose. Folks, while that may be true, and I'm not challenging that assumption or that guess at all, because they do try to take advantage of people. The bottom line is, if you sign that mortgage, you let them. You allowed them to do that. You gave them consent to do that. So then this individual, my friend, began telling me that I'm on their side, meaning the government and the bank side, by saying something like that. So I'm like, so me saying that contract is by consent means that I'm on the people that put out the mortgage, I'm on their side? That's what that means? No. See, because that's why most people don't want to think about that. Oh, look how many viewers we have. That's nice. One moment, please. I'm going to send out 5 gifts. Oh man, I'm so happy about that. I don't get to pick who gets the gifted, but I see the great buddy Daryl Bennett got a gifted membership. So I hope he appreciates that. I love that guy. We did one workshop together a long time ago, but he's stayed in contact. He's a great individual, great guy. He is the great buddy. All right. And he's always welcome here. All right. Back to what I was talking about contract. A lot of folks don't want to think about that. The accountability of who signed the mortgage. Now you may say, well, when I signed the mortgage, I didn't understand the mortgage. I didn't understand it. I had this this stack of paperwork, the mortgage, and I didn't understand it. I just signed it without understanding it. Okay. Do you consider yourself to be a smart person? Do you consider yourself to be intelligent? When you walk into the room, do you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, or at least that you're amongst the smartest people in the room? Is that how you feel? Do you think you're dumb? Just asking. Because if you signed a contract without reading the contract, how smart is that? Or is that dumb? Contract is by consent. Why would you ever agree to a contract that you didn't read? Why would you ever agree to a contract that you don't understand? Did someone force you to do that? Did someone twist your arm to do that? Did someone hold a firearm to your head and say, you better sign this mortgage? Think about it. It takes just a little bit of humility to get your answer. Most people don't want to think about that. They don't want to talk about that. They would rather think that, hey, it's someone else's fault. Pulcha says, same with VACC. And I think they made vaccination. And I will say, yeah, there was what we would call coercion. But again, it was a choice, right? It was a choice to do that. Those folks that lost their jobs because it was put on the table that either you get this medical procedure or you get fired, you lose your job. That's still a choice. And in that case, I would have to say that fear, and I'm not defending the fiction at all, not in any way, shape, or form. You have to understand what the fiction is. And one of the fiction's biggest tools is fear. What is fear? Fear doesn't exist. Fear is a concept. It's a condition of state that's imaginary. Like, okay, say you're into the Wim Hof method and you want to get healthy, and someone gets a bathtub and fills it full of ice and water, and they say, jump in there and get your ice bath. And you're afraid to because you're imagining what it's going to feel like. You don't know what it's going to feel like because you've never had an ice bath before, but you're imagining what it feels like. And then you say, no, I don't really want to get that ice bath. That's fear. Fear. Fear is something that hasn't happened, but you are assigning it value without it having being actually tangible. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the vaccination thing where people said you were going to get fired. Your bosses said you're going to get fired if you don't get this vaccination. Well, in your mind, you're thinking, well, if I get fired, I'm not going to be able to feed my family. I'm not going to do this, do that, the third. If you consider yourself to be an intelligent individual, if you consider yourself to be rational, logical, on top of things, captain of your own ship, so to speak, and you're not alone, right? You have a family. You probably, there are folks out there who didn't choose the vax and they're just fine. They may have lost that job, but it worked out for them in one way or another. This is how, in mind, from my viewpoint, the cosmos works, okay? It's going to work out for you, especially if you really think it through. Everything is a choice. The only way it's not really a choice is if someone literally is holding you down physically and forcing you to do something, which has happened and can happen. There's no doubt about it. Anyone who has attempted to use correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar in a foreign vessel in dry dock has at one time or another run into bigger guns and clubs and use of force. At least one time. It's just the way it happens. But it's not nearly as bad as what you think it's going to be. Usually that's how it happens. It's not nearly as bad as what your mind builds it up to be. So it's the same thing with any situation, what we were just talking about, the vaccination situation, the mortgage situation, the contract situation. Contract is by consent, period, end of story. And it runs both ways. Fear equals con. Con actually means together. When you look it up in an etymology dictionary, con and co means together, like configure, together with the figuring. Confirm, together with the firmness. That's what con means. Now, if you go later on in etymology dictionaries, they begin to assign a negative condition of state to CON. But with correct sentence structure, we go to the earliest nativity root meanings. Incorrect sentence structure. I mean, of course, you can do whatever you want in the fiction and so on and so forth, but in the domain of fact, the general rule of thumb is to go to the earliest nativity root meaning of a word particle. I'll be finding out in March when we are back in court. That's the thing too, also, Harry, and which you and I have discussed. In your particular situation, which, since you brought it up here, I'm not going to give any specific details or anything like that. I'll try to keep it generalized. In a situation like that, you've basically put the ball in the fiction's court. You're giving jurisdiction to them. Really, the only way that I know of for you as an author or an authority to take jurisdiction over a case is to create your own case in a document, contract, postal vessel court venue. There isn't a stamp on this, but this is a document, contract, postal vessel court venue. Make no mistake. I am the, as some folks would say, federal postal judge. I don't use that term. I use the term document, contract, court authority. All right. I'm the authority of that. That is the court. I have complete jurisdiction over that. If I'm walking into a foreign vessel in dry dock, I will be taking this and putting it on the floor, on the well of the court, and putting one foot over it and doing these types of mechanics, which I'm not going to go into, physical type of mechanics where you void all the boxes and planes. And then this is the authority, and you're the authority of that. But if you're going back and forth speaking to the master mason in the black robe on the third plane, then it's their jurisdiction. You're playing ball in their court, no matter what it is. So wow, we're getting some more viewers in here. Let's go. Pulchus says AU equals gold. Is that a question of some sort? Could you flesh that question out? What is your specific question on AU? If it's a grammar question, Pulcha, I highly recommend you going to the home page on my YouTube channel and type in AU. And you will see several videos that I have published on the etymology of AU and so on and so forth, which I did probably 7 years ago. Any grammar question you have can be answered on this channel 9.9 times out of 10. So if you want to know about AU, just punch it in the search bar on my channel so that YouTube will search only my channel, and then you'll get any video that I made about that. I actually did a video about that. Let me see if I can find a link to that video. I found it. Oh my goodness, I found it. Sweet. Here. Oh, what the heck? There. That link will show you exactly how to use the search bar on my YouTube channel. So Paul just says AU equals gold, and then they put the word author, and then they put I meant on the periodic table. I don't understand that. How would the word author mean anything on a periodic table? And not to mention on the periodic table, everything's in a box. So we're talking about fiction over here, I guess. I deal more with the grammar, and that's in using etymology dictionaries and things like that for correct sentence structure. Not so much the periodic table. But again, the value of a thing is what you ascribe to it. Whatever value you think something would have in your construct, that's what you would ascribe to it. You always got to keep in mind, though, again, contract is by consent. So whatever world you create, keep in mind, if you want to contract with someone else, you have to make it the communication easy, because no one's going to want to communicate with you if you're using a manner of communication that is super difficult to understand, or that doesn't make any sense, or that is haphazard and all over the place. Like, for example, the way you're communicating here, Pulcher, you're using like 1 and 2 word chats. It's like, I mean, I understand this is the internet and this is how kids communicate on the internet. I'm not saying you're a kid. I'm saying that that's how usually communication is done in a chat. It's like asking to assume a lot. I don't have no idea you're talking about the periodic table. I don't know. I know this is a grammar channel, so I'm going to guess that you're talking about etymology. How was I to know you were talking about the periodic table? I don't know unless you flesh out your question a little more, be a little more specific. So again, what you put in is what you get out. I see we're getting some more viewers here, so I want to gift some more memberships, because I want you to know I appreciate y'all being here. So there we go. That's my appreciation. And those folks who actually donate and buy like the tier 1 and tier 2 memberships, I much appreciate that. It helps keep this channel up and running. For sure. Oh, I wanted to discuss also the recent poll that I put up. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick here, and if I can actually share my screen with you. All right, folks, I'm testing right now, okay? Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me talk, and can you see me? Please let me know in the chat. Can you hear and see me? And can you see the poll? Hello, anybody out there? I see we got yes and yes. Thank you, Harry. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right. So the question was, what is the most important critical element if you're going to actually use correct sentence structure and have guaranteed success? And then I put in a comment, note, I use the word guaranteed success. Most people put 100% closure, which is the 100% correct answer. The next highest choice was correct volition. Now, the key is the words guaranteed success. If you go into a situation with correct volition, but you do not have closure on the grammar, it's going to work out in a way that it's going to have a positive result. You may not see it at the time, but it's going to have a positive result because you have correct volition. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to, okay, for a reason. But if you have 100% closure on the grammar, then that necessitates that correct volition is included in that, because there is no one out there that I know of in my 9+ years of doing this that has closure on the grammar that does not also have correct volition. Anyone who has 100% closure on grammar and can use it definitely has 100% correct volition. I think, personally, I think that you can't get closure on the grammar unless you have correct volition. That's just the way this grammar works. That's why I've said in the past that there's no way that this grammar can be used for malicious purposes. If someone has 100% correct closure on it, I've never seen it. I've seen people use it for malicious purposes and they didn't have closure on the grammar and they use shit grammar, quantum gobbledygook. I've seen that, but they always fall flat in their face or it blows up in their face. It's like, playing with a landmine or something and it blows up. That's kind of what it is. But if you know what you're doing, you have 100% closure, then that also means that you have 100% correct volition. So I wanted to straighten that out. I wanted to put that out there. Although volition is very important, and if you have 100% closure, or I'm sorry, if you have pure intent, but you don't have closure on the grammar, it's still probably going to work out for you, just not the way that you think it is. But if you have 100% closure on the grammar, then that also means that you have correct volition and it's going to work out for you. Because this grammar is sacred, folks, and it only works successfully for those folks. I mean, I can't say that it only works. I can say that it works 100% of the time for those who have 100% closure on it and correct volition. And those two things go together. I just wanted to point that out. And it's interesting because in the chat right now, there is one individual in here that I can certify has a level of closure that only the 1% of the 1% of the 1% achieve from my 9 years of experience. And that's Harry Charles Rookslow. He went through the fire, went through the trenches, did the workshops, put the work in, and he's one of my best students. And he's not afraid to use this stuff out in the world, out there in the field. And he does use it. But he's one of the very few that actually has the tenacity and intestinal fortitude to stick with it and learn this, to have an empty cup with humility and be open to learning this. Because that's another issue that a lot of folks have, is that they come in with an ego. They come in with their cup already full. And then I try and teach them and they already think they know it, or they think they know better. And there are things that they probably do know better or know more about. But as far as this grammar, as they say, I'll stand on 10 toes down on this. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anyone. This grammar, there may be few things in life that I know about and I'm a master of, but this grammar is one of them. And I'll stand on 10 toes on that. I'll stand on that rock. I suppose that's why I'm still here. And there's so few people that will learn this, or that want to learn this, or that even have the willpower to learn this. Most folks are just what we would call dilettantes. It sounds all well and fine to them. It's the idea of learning this and using it is appealing to them. And they like to share it with other folks. But when it comes time to explaining what it is or how to do it, they get lost. And then they end up looking like they're cuckoo, which is what I found out very quickly when I was first learning this. I learned to shut my mouth about it. I learned very quickly that if you don't know what you're talking about, don't try and convince someone else about uh, the validity of something if you don't have closure on it. Because it's just going to make you look goofy. It's going to make them, and you're going to lose credibility if that's what you're after. If you're after having credibility with someone or a reputation or whatever, you're going to lose it if you try and talk about something you don't understand. And that's what usually happens with people. All right, so back to the contract. I'm trying to think if I covered everything I needed to cover on the topic of contract. Contract is by consent. Paulcha and I were having a discussion here, and he brought up the topic of vaccinations and things like that, and I was talking about mortgages and it's and Facebook, actually. How many people here have a Facebook account? Okay. How many people here have read the terms and conditions before they click the agree button on Facebook? I'll bet none of you did. Or Instagram, or even YouTube. I bet none of you read the terms and conditions before you clicked the agree button. So what did you do? You agreed to a contract you didn't understand. Why would you do that? Why would you agree to something? Why would you agree to terms and conditions on a piece of paper that you didn't read and you don't know what's on there? Why would you do that? Think about it. So if something bad happens later on, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? For example, my Facebook and Instagram personal accounts being removed. Whose fault is it that they were removed? Well, it's my fault. Of course it's my fault. There's no doubt about it. I don't have a problem with saying that. I know that lots of people get really butthurt about that. Oh, Facebook took down, if I'm in Facebook jail because they don't practice free speech. Well, no shit, they don't practice free speech. It's like you poke a bear, what do you think's going to happen? You pick a rattlesnake out from, you see a turpentine with a rattlesnake wrapped around it, and you go pick it up. What are the chances are that you're going to get bit? Or that it's at least going to try and bite you? I mean, to some of us, I guess they would be considered common sense. But that's an assumption. That's why you hear people saying you got to know what you're doing before you do it. Okay, stop and correct. That is not always true. Sometimes you do have to wing it, all right? But it's best to put in as much preparatory work as you can, enough study, enough research, so that you're adequately, at least in your own mind, prepared when you go into a scenario so that you can handle it. That's kind of how I view it. I mean, I know that I have closure on this grammar. 100%. I know this. I'm confident of it. I use it every day, and I have for the last 9+ years. So I know that if I'm put in a situation or a scenario where I have to use it and I have to improvise, I'm totally confident with that. I can do it under duress. Easy. I can think up correct sentence structures. I can syntax. I can any type of shipping scenario, postal scenario, flag scenario. I'm good. And if something comes up that I don't know, I can figure it out. I can think on my feet. I'm pretty confident with that. And that comes from not only study, research, and preparation, but it also comes from experience. It also comes from putting yourself in those scenarios and being exposed to that and using those tools. basically. I mean, you can read a book about swimming, right? You can read all the books you want. You can have like a whole bookshelf, books how to swim, different types of swimming patterns, how to hold your breath and go underwater and all this stuff. But until you get in the water, you don't know if you can do it or not. You have to get in the water. Thanks for coming out, Quadruple A. Appreciate your viewership. I appreciate your membership. And longtime viewer there, Quadruple A. Much gratitude. Much gratitude. Thanks for stopping by. What we got here? Almost an hour? All right. Yeah, I'm going to draw this to a close. It was a pretty good stream. Big surprise. No grammar questions. Big surprise. I hope my friend who said that I was on the side of the fiction or whatever, I hope they watch this and understand the contract is by consent. All right. And that doesn't mean that you can't stop a trespasser, what you deem to be a trespass. There are ways to do this, but you have to learn the grammar. And that's one thing that my friend won't do. They won't learn the grammar. And, again, contract is by consent. It's the folks that are like, I don't have time to learn this grammar. So could you do it for me? It's like, well, yeah, I could, but I need compensated, rule 1, rule equal, for the energy I'm going to invest in your case. So if you can think of an attorney fee and you can think of what that retainer would be for this, you'd probably have to double or triple it in order to get me to take on your case, because it takes so much time and energy to do this. Correct sentence structure and do it correctly with correctness. Okay? Not half-assing it, no quantum gobbledygook, RJG bullshit type of whatever. This means putting together a for real document contract postal vessel court venue. Translated to correct sentence structure, translated to plain simple English, all the evidence and mechanics and postal mechanics, flag mechanics, banking mechanics, grammar mechanics, all that stuff. It takes a lot. And it's going to take away from my day. It's going to take away from whatever else I'm doing in my day. So is it, what's that worth to you? What's that worth to you? That's why I say it's just easier to learn it yourself. Man up. Go in your closet, get your man pants out, put them on, and learn the grammar. Take the workshops, do what it takes to learn the grammar. Or don't complain if you want to hire me to take your case on. And don't complain about what the compensation is, because, rule 1, rule equal. What am I supposed to do, starve to take on your case because you got a DUI or whatever it is that you got? That's a joke. That's a joke. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I think this will remain up as it is. I think it was a pretty good live stream. Appreciate everybody coming out, especially you, Harry. Teddy, I appreciate you showing up even if you're late. Thank you, Pulcha, for participating. Quadruple A stopped in. Who else? I don't know, everybody that came in. If I left anybody out, I apologize. I'll see you in the next one.